As someone deeply versed in ancient Jewish wisdom, let me ask you something that's been weighing on my mind. Do you truly believe that living paycheck to paycheck is your destiny? I see you struggling, watching your salary vanish before the month ends, trapped in an endless cycle of financial worry. But what if I told you that this struggle isn't your predetermined path? For thousands of years, my people have understood and practiced financial principles that have sustained generations through persecution, exile, and starting over with nothing but the clothes on their backs. While you're anxiously checking your bank balance, wondering if you'll make it through the month, there are others who sleep peacefully at night, their wealth growing steadily, their children's future secure. The difference isn't luck, it's wisdom. Let me share something profound from the Torah that might shake you to your core. When Moses led our people out of Egypt, they had been slaves for 430 years. Yet within one generation they built enough wealth to construct the tabernacle. A structure so magnificent it required massive amounts of gold, silver, and precious materials. How did former slaves accomplish this? They understood something you don't. Wealth isn't about what you earn. It's about how you think. You're probably sitting there thinking, but Caleb, times are different now. Everything is more expensive. Stop. This excuse is exactly why you're stuck. The fundamental principles of wealth haven't changed since Abraham first taught them to his children. What's changed is people's willingness to embrace discipline and delayed gratification. Let me be brutally honest with you. Your financial struggles aren't because of inflation, the economy, or your salary. They're because you're thinking like a slave instead of a patriarch. When Abraham sent his servant Eliezer to find a wife for Isaac, he gave him 10 camels loaded with wealth. Why? Because he understood that wealth isn't just about having money. It's about creating value and being prepared for opportunities. You're probably wondering about your own situation right now. You work hard, you try to save, but something always comes up. I understand. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you sat down and truly examined your relationship with money? Not just your spending habits, but your deep-seated beliefs about wealth. The Talmud teaches us that every person will be asked 6 questions when they face divine judgment. One of these questions is, did you conduct your business affairs with integrity? Notice it doesn't ask if you were rich or poor. It asks about how you handled what you were given. This teaches us something crucial. Your financial situation isn't just about money. It's about character. I see you making the same mistakes I've witnessed countless times. You're treating money like it's the goal rather than the tool. You're chasing higher income instead of building wealth. You're focusing on immediate gratification instead of generational thinking. These aren't just financial mistakes, they're spiritual ones. Here's what truly concerns me about your situation. You're not just losing money, you're losing time. Every month that passes while you remain stuck in this cycle is another month of potential wealth building lost forever. The great Rabbi Hillel once said, "If not now, when?" I'm asking you the same question. If you're not ready to transform your financial life now, then when? I've spent decades studying both ancient wisdom and modern finance, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that your financial struggles are not a financial problem. They're a wisdom problem. The solutions exist, tested by time and proven through generations. But here's what you need to understand. This wisdom isn't just about making money. It's about transforming who you are as a person. Think about King Solomon, the wisest and wealthiest man who ever lived. Before he asked for wealth, he asked for wisdom. And because he prioritized wisdom, wealth followed naturally. This is the pattern I see missing in your life. You're chasing the outcome without building the foundation. Are you ready to learn these principles? Are you prepared to challenge everything you think you know about money? Because I warn you, what I'm about to share in this video series will contradict much of what modern society has taught you about wealth. It will require you to think differently, act differently, and become someone different. Before we continue, I want you to take a moment and really ask yourself, are you truly ready for change? Because what I'm about to share with you isn't just information, it's transformation. And transformation requires courage, commitment, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths about yourself. Can you handle that level of honesty? Are you prepared to see your financial mistakes for what they really are? Not just numerical errors, but character flaws that need to be corrected. If you're ready for this journey, If you're prepared to think like a patriarch instead of a pauper, then stay with me. Because what comes next will change not just your bank account, but your entire approach to life. Let me tell you what I see when I look at your financial life, and I warn you, this truth will hurt. But as King Solomon taught, faithful are the wounds of a friend, deceitful are the kisses of an enemy. Today, I'm being that faithful friend who will show you exactly why you're failing. You wake up each morning, check your phone, and immediately feel that knot in your stomach. Your bank account is running low, bills are piling up, and you're still 2 weeks away from your next paycheck. But here's what you don't want to admit. This isn't happening to you. You're choosing this reality. Let me break down your destructive patterns, and I want you to pay close attention because I'm about to expose every financial sin you're committing. First, let's talk about your spending habits. You treat your salary like it's a permission slip to spend. The moment money enters your account, you're already mentally allocating it to things you don't need. That $5 coffee every morning? That's $1,325 a year you're literally drinking away. Those impulse purchases on Amazon? They're not treats. They're symptoms of your lack of financial discipline. The Talmud teaches us that a fool and his money are soon parted. But you're not just being foolish. You're being willfully ignorant. You know these habits are destroying your financial future, yet you continue. Why? Because you're addicted to immediate gratification. You're choosing the pleasure of the moment over the security of your future. Let's talk about your emergency fund, or rather, the lack of it. The sage Hillel taught, "Do not say, 'When I have leisure, I will study,' for you may never have leisure." Similarly, you keep saying, "I'll start saving when I make more money." This is a lie you tell yourself, and deep down, you know it. If you can't manage to save 10% of your current income, what makes you think you'll save 10% of a larger income? Your problem isn't income, it's discipline. I've seen people making 6 figures who are just as broke as those making minimum wage. Why? Because they scaled their foolishness with their income. Is this what you want for yourself? To earn more just so you can waste more? The Midrash tells us about Joseph in Egypt, who saved during the 7 years of plenty to prepare for the 7 years of famine. But look at you. You can't even save for next month's expenses. You're living in your own self-created famine, and unlike Joseph, you had plenty of warnings. Here's another hard truth. Your relationship with debt is toxic. You use credit cards like they're extra income. The Torah strictly warns against the dangers of debt, yet you're willingly enslaving yourself to creditors. Every time you swipe that credit card for something you don't need, you're selling your future freedom for present pleasure. Let's examine your investment strategy, or should I say, your lack of one. The Talmud teaches that a person should always divide their wealth into 3 parts: a third in land, a third in business, and a third in liquid assets. But what's your strategy? Keeping everything in a checking account, watching your money lose value to inflation? This isn't caution, it's cowardice. You're probably thinking, but investing is risky. No, what's risky is depending on a single source of income. What's risky is having no plan for your financial future. What's risky is thinking your job will always be there, that your health will always be perfect, that someone else will take care of you in your old age. The great Rabbi Nachman of Breslov taught that where a person's thoughts are, that's where they are entirely. So let me ask you, where are your thoughts when it comes to money? Are you thinking about building wealth? Or are you just thinking about making it to the next paycheck? Are you planning for generations, or are you struggling to plan for next week? Your financial literacy is another area of willing ignorance. You spend hours on social media watching meaningless videos, but when was the last time you read a book about finance? When did you last study how money actually works? The sages taught that the crown of a good name stands above all. But how can you build a legacy when you don't even understand the basic tools of wealth creation? Here's what makes this situation even more tragic. You have access to more financial information than any generation before you. You have tools, resources, and opportunities that your ancestors couldn't even dream of. Yet you choose to remain financially illiterate. You choose to repeat the same mistakes, month after month, year after year. And let's talk about your excuses. The economy is bad. Everything is too expensive. I don't make enough. These aren't reasons. They're rationalizations. Our ancestors rebuilt their wealth multiple times throughout history, often starting with nothing, in countries where they didn't even speak the language. What's your excuse? If you continue living this way, you're not just choosing to fail. You're choosing to fail your children, your future self, and every generation that comes after you. Is this the legacy you want to leave? A legacy of financial mediocrity and missed opportunities? Are you ready to hear how to fix this? Because if these harsh truths haven't scared you away, then maybe, just maybe, you're finally ready to learn the ancient wisdom that can transform your financial future. Now that you understand why you're failing, let me share with you a principle so profound yet so simple that it has sustained Jewish wealth for over 3,000 years. This isn't just another financial tip. This is the foundation that separates those who remain poor from those who build lasting wealth. The Torah teaches us a fundamental principle that modern financial experts have either forgotten or deliberately ignored. When Jacob worked for his father-in-law Laban, he didn't just earn a salary, he built wealth through a system. The Talmud expands on this, teaching us the divine formula. Divide your money into 3 equal parts, 1/3 for investment, 1/3 for your daily needs, and 1/3 for savings and emergencies. Let this sink in for a moment. This isn't a suggestion. It's a spiritual law as immutable as gravity. But you've been ignoring it, haven't you? You've been living by the world's formula. Spend everything, save nothing, and hope for the best. How's that working out for you? Let me tell you a story from the Talmud that will illuminate this principle. Rabbi Akiva was once asked by his students why he charged interest to fellow Jews when lending money, which is typically forbidden by Jewish law. His response reveals a profound truth. This money isn't for profit, it's for teaching. When people have to pay interest, they learn the true value of money. The lesson? Every financial decision is an educational opportunity. But you're probably wondering, how can I divide my money into thirds when I can barely make ends meet? This is exactly the kind of thinking that keeps you poor. You're looking at this principle backward. The division isn't about what's left after spending. It's about allocating before you spend a single penny. Here's where modern banking meets ancient wisdom. Just as our ancestors had different pouches for different purposes, you need separate accounts for each third. But this isn't just about organization. It's about discipline and respect for money. When you treat money with respect, it multiplies. When you treat it carelessly, it vanishes. The first third, investment, is your seed money. In the Torah, farmers were commanded to set aside seed for next year's planting before using any of their harvest. If they ate their seeds, they ensured future hunger. You've been eating your seeds, haven't you? Every time you skip investing to cover unnecessary expenses, you're guaranteeing your future poverty. The second third is for your daily needs. Notice I said needs, not wants. The Talmud teaches that a person who buys what they don't need will eventually have to sell what they do need. Look around your home. How many things did you buy that you don't really need? Each unnecessary purchase is a brick in the wall between you and wealth. The final third is your safety net. Rabbi Meir taught that a person should always have enough saved to sustain themselves for at least 3 years. 3 years, and you can barely make it 3 weeks without touching your credit card. This isn't just about money. It's about peace of mind. When you have savings, you make decisions from a position of strength, not desperation. Let me be crystal clear. This system isn't optional if you want to build wealth. It's not something you can modify or adapt to your comfort level. It's a divine formula that has worked for millennia. When our people were expelled from various countries throughout history, those who followed this principle rebuilt their wealth quickly. Those who didn't remained poor. You might be thinking this sounds too simple. Good. Simple works. Simple lasts. Simple transforms lives. The complexity you're looking for is just another excuse to avoid taking action. The Talmud says, make your Torah study fixed. Say little and do much. The same applies to your finances. Less theory, more action. Here's what you need to understand. This principle isn't just about money management. It's about character development. Each time you properly divide your money, you're not just organizing funds, you're organizing your mind. You're not just saving money, you're saving your future. But let me be brutally honest with you. If you don't apply this principle starting today, not tomorrow, not next month, but today, you will remain exactly where you are. Actually, no, you'll sink lower, because financial entropy is real. Without a system, things don't stay the same. they get worse. Think about where you are right now. How does it feel to check your bank account? How does it feel to lie awake at night wondering how you'll handle an unexpected expense? Is this the life you want to continue living? Are you content to remain a financial slave, constantly worried, constantly struggling? Or are you ready to embrace this ancient wisdom and finally start living life on your own terms? The choice is yours, but understand this. There is no middle ground. You either follow this principle completely, or you don't follow it at all. Half measures are just another form of failure. The next part of our discussion will show you exactly how to implement this system in your modern life. But before we continue, I need to know, are you truly ready to change? Are you prepared to follow this divine formula that has created wealth for thousands of years? Or will you continue to wallow in financial mediocrity, making the same excuses that keep you poor? Now that you understand the divine principle of the 3/3, let me show you exactly how to implement it in your life. No more excuses, no more delays. You're going to learn the practical steps that will transform your financial reality. But remember, knowledge without action is like a bird without wings. It's useless. First, let's talk about something that will make you uncomfortable: tracking every single penny. The Talmud teaches that blessing only rests upon something that is hidden from the eye. But here's the paradox. Before you can hide your wealth, you need to know exactly what you have. For the next 30 days, I want you to write down every expense, every coffee, every subscription, every impulse purchase. Yes, it's tedious. Yes, it's uncomfortable. That's exactly why you need to do it. Open your phone right now. Yes, right now. Download a spending tracker app. Don't tell me you'll do it later. Later never comes. This is your first test of commitment. Are you willing to face the truth about your spending? Or will you continue hiding from it like a coward? Second step, open 3 separate bank accounts today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. One for investment, one for daily needs, one for emergencies. The Talmud tells us about Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who divided his wealth into 3 portions before making any decisions. He understood something you need to grasp. Structure precedes success. When you get your next paycheck, it goes into the primary account and gets immediately divided. 33.33% into each account. No excuses about bills or emergencies. This division happens first, before anything else. Remember Joseph in Egypt? He took 20% of everything before the years of plenty even began. You need to be even more disciplined. Take your third before you even think about spending. Now, about your investment account. This isn't for your regular savings. This is seed money that must grow. The Torah teaches us about the concept of ma'aser, giving 1/10 of our earnings. But here's what most people miss. It's not just about giving, it's about creating circulation. Your investment third needs to circulate and multiply. Start with simple, consistent investments. I don't care if it's only $100 per month. The Talmud teaches us that poverty follows the poor. Break this cycle by becoming an investor, no matter how small you start. Set up automatic transfers. Remove your emotional weakness from the equation. For your daily needs account, implement the envelope system. Yes, it's old-fashioned. Yes, it works. Divide your expenses into categories: housing, food, transportation, utilities. The moment you get paid, allocate specific amounts to each category. When an envelope is empty, you stop spending in that category. Period. No exceptions, no borrowing from other envelopes. King Solomon taught that the wise man's eyes are in his head, meaning he looks ahead and plans. Your emergency fund isn't for opportunities or good deals. It's for true emergencies. Build it until you have at least 6 months of expenses saved. The Talmud recommends 3 years, but let's start with 6 months. Every time you're tempted to touch this money, remember the story of Joseph. 7 years of plenty were followed by 7 years of famine. Your famine will come. Be prepared. Here's your daily discipline checklist. Morning, check your accounts. Know your numbers. The Talmud says, "Who is wise? One who sees what is being born." See your financial reality every morning. Before any purchase, ask yourself, is this a need or a want? Wait 24 hours for any purchase over $50. Most urgent purchases aren't urgent at all. Weekly, review your spending tracker. Categories everything. Look for patterns. The Talmud teaches that a person's character is recognized through three things: their cup, how they behave when drinking; their pocket, how they handle money; and their anger. What is your spending revealing about your character? Monthly. Conduct a full financial review. Compare your actual spending to your plan. The Torah commands us to make an accounting of the tabernacle's materials. How much more so should you account for your own resources? Now, about your debt. If you have any, it needs to go. The Torah warns us strongly about being in debt. It's not just a financial burden, it's spiritual slavery. List all your debts, smallest to largest. While maintaining minimum payments on all, attack the smallest with every extra dollar you can find. Sell things if you have to. Work extra if you must. But get out of debt. Stop making excuses about not having enough time to manage your money. The same 24 hours that you waste scrolling through social media could be used to build your financial future. The Talmud teaches that fixed times for Torah study should be made both day and night. Apply this to your financial education. Spend at least 30 minutes daily learning about money management. Here's what you need to do right now. Not after this video, not tomorrow, but right now. Download that spending tracker app. Call your bank to open those 3 accounts. Set up your first automatic transfer, even if it's just $10. Write down every debt you have. Cancel at least one unnecessary subscription. If you're not willing to do these 5 simple steps right now, then stop watching. You're wasting both our time. This isn't a spectator sport. This is your life, your future, your legacy at stake. The next section will show you real examples of people who've applied these principles and transformed their lives. But before we continue, I need to know, have you taken action on these steps, or are you still making excuses? Are you ready to see what's possible when you actually apply this wisdom, or are you content just being a financial spectator? Let me share with you some powerful stories that will eliminate any excuse you might have about why these principles won't work for you. These aren't just stories. They're mirrors that will show you what's possible when you finally decide to act. Let me tell you about David, a Holocaust survivor who arrived in New York in 1946 with nothing but the clothes on his back and $10 in his pocket. While others complained about starting over, David immediately implemented the 3/3 principle. Even from his first job washing dishes, he divided every dollar: 1/3 for investment, 1/3 for living, 1/3 for emergencies. People mocked him for saving such small amounts. "What difference will $2 make?" they said. But David understood something they didn't. It wasn't about the amount, it was about the habit. Within 5 years, David owned a small grocery store. Within 10 years, he owned 3. By the time he passed away, he had built a real estate empire worth millions. How? Because he never deviated from the principle. When others bought new cars, he kept his old one and invested the difference. When others upgraded to bigger houses, he stayed in his modest home and bought rental properties instead. Every single day, he tracked his expenses in a small notebook, just like I told you to do. Was he too busy? No. He made time because he understood the importance. But perhaps you're thinking, that was a different time. Fine. Let me tell you about Sarah, a single mother in 2020 who lost her job during the pandemic. Instead of panicking, she remembered the teachings of her grandmother about the 3/3 principle. Even with her unemployment checks, she maintained the discipline of division. She took free online courses during the lockdown, started a small online business, and never touched her emergency fund. Today, Sarah's business generates 6 figures annually. But here's what's more important. She still lives on 1/3 of her income, just like when she was unemployed. The rest goes to investment and savings. Was she too busy to manage her money? No, she made it a priority, just like I'm telling you to do. Let's go back in history for a moment. Remember the story of Joseph in Egypt? He implemented a 20% savings rate across an entire nation. For 7 years, they stored grain during plenty to prepare for famine. This wasn't just good planning, it was divine wisdom in action. When the famine came, Egypt not only survived but prospered, while other nations struggled. You're probably thinking, but I'm not running a country. No, you're not. You're just responsible for your own financial future. If Joseph could implement this system for millions of people without modern technology, what's your excuse for not managing your own money? Consider the story of Rabbi Akiva. He was a shepherd who didn't even know how to read until age 40. But once he committed to learning, He applied the same discipline to his finances as he did to his studies. He became not only one of our greatest scholars, but also one of the wealthiest men of his time. How? By following these exact principles we're discussing. Let me share a modern example. Michael, a tech worker in Silicon Valley, was making 6 figures, but still living paycheck to paycheck. Sound familiar? After learning about the 3/3 principle, he completely restructured his life. He downsized his apartment, sold his luxury car, and started dividing his income properly. His colleagues thought he was crazy. Why live like a poor person when you make good money? They asked. 3 years later, when the tech industry experienced massive layoffs, those same colleagues were struggling to pay their bills. Meanwhile, Michael had 2 years of living expenses saved and a growing investment portfolio. Was he special? No. He simply applied the principles that you're currently ignoring. Or take Rachel's story. A school teacher making $45,000 a year. She thought these principles couldn't work for her. I don't make enough, she said, just like you're probably thinking right now. But she decided to try anyway. She started with just $50 per month in each third. It felt pointless, almost embarrassing, but she stuck with it. 5 years later, Rachel had 0 debt, a year's worth of expenses saved, and a small but growing investment portfolio. More importantly, she had peace of mind. When her car broke down, it wasn't a crisis. It was just an inconvenience. Her emergency fund handled it easily. These aren't just success stories. They're indictments of your excuses. Every person I've mentioned faced obstacles bigger than yours. They had less technology, fewer opportunities, and more challenges. But they succeeded because they applied these principles with iron discipline. The Holocaust survivors who rebuilt their wealth didn't have YouTube videos explaining financial strategies. The immigrants who built businesses didn't have apps to track their spending. They had something more valuable. They had discipline and wisdom passed down through generations. You have more tools, more information, and more opportunities than any of these people had, yet you're still struggling. Why? Because you're looking for complexity when the answer is simple. Divide your money, track every penny, invest consistently, and maintain iron discipline. These stories aren't meant to inspire you, they're meant to confront you. Every person I've mentioned proved that these principles work in any era, under any circumstances. Your situation isn't unique, your challenges aren't special. The only question is, will you be the next success story I tell? Or will you remain another example of someone who knew the truth, but failed to act? The moment of truth has arrived. You've heard the ancient wisdom. You've seen the proof in real stories. And now you face a decision that will echo through generations of your family. Your financial destiny stands at a crossroads, and only you can choose which path to take. Look at your life right now. Really look at it. The constant worry about money, the sleepless nights, the shame of living paycheck to paycheck. Is this the legacy you want to leave? Is this the story you want your children to inherit? The Talmud teaches us that our choices affect not just ourselves, but 7 generations forward. 7 generations! What financial legacy are you creating right now? You've been given something precious today, the same wisdom that has created and preserved wealth for thousands of years. These aren't modern tricks or get-rich-quick schemes. These are eternal principles tested by time, persecution, and economic upheaval. They've rebuilt fortunes from ashes, transformed paupers into providers, and created generational wealth in every era, in every country, under every circumstance. But knowledge without action is worthless. The Torah teaches that when the Israelites received the wisdom at Mount Sinai, they declared, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear. Notice the order. First do, then understand. Your transformation must begin with action, not contemplation. So here's your moment of decision. Will you continue to be a spectator in your own financial life, watching others build wealth while you make excuses? Or will you become the architect of your own prosperity, applying these principles with the same dedication that has created Jewish financial success for millennia? The choice is yours, but understand this. There is no middle ground. You either commit fully to these principles or remain exactly where you are. Financial mediocrity is a choice, and so is financial prosperity. Which are you choosing? If you're ready to transform your financial future, take these actions right now. Subscribe to this channel. Not later, not after thinking about it. Now. Click that button. Every week I'll share more of this ancient wisdom, translated into practical steps for modern life. Leave a comment below, sharing which principle resonated most with you and how you plan to implement it. This public commitment will strengthen your resolve. Share this video with someone who needs this wisdom. The Talmud teaches that when we help others, we help ourselves. Your share could be the catalyst someone needs to change their financial destiny. Turn on notifications. Don't miss a single lesson. Each video builds upon the last, creating a complete system for financial transformation. Remember, the same God who created the universe created these financial principles. They aren't suggestions, they're laws as reliable as gravity. Your only choice is whether to work with them or against them. May you be blessed with the wisdom to choose correctly and the strength to act decisively. May your decisions today create prosperity for generations to come. Shalom.